Hello, and welcome to the Plenty of Positivity podcast. I am your host, Courtney Beck, and today we have a very special guest, Ariane Vera. Ariane is the founder of the Journal of a Healer. She is a 12-time author, and she has 3 TEDx talks. It is my absolute pleasure and honor to welcome Ariane Vera.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I can't wait for our conversation. Already sending emails has been such a joy. So I'm just so happy to be here today.
So glad that you mentioned that, because literally I have to tell our audience, our listeners, that we've been communicating between LinkedIn messages and emails, and your energy and your emails and your messages, they're lightning. I just come alive when I get a message from Ariane. I'm like, this is going to be an amazing day. And now we are here on the podcast. I could not wait to meet you here on camera. So Ariane, I'm so excited for this podcast. Why don't we begin with an introduction and a background of yourself?
Yeah, of course. So I was born in Germany. My dad is Argentinian. My mom is German. So I grew up with the two cultures, languages. And that's very funny. I'm sure that a lot of people can relate. Like if you grow up between cultures very early, you just know there is no normal. So you never fully belong 100% to one culture, but it's really fun because you get to pick what best fits you, and you get to choose what's you, like what's at your core. You're just not so influenced by just one thing and it has to be this. It's just like, oh, just pick and mix and match. And I think that's the way to go. And then I moved to Mexico because I had a burnout. I had this vision of becoming the super successful woman in a corporate career and a leader. And I wanted that so badly. And I had the shiny success that looked perfect on paper, but I got a burnout and I had to change something. So I left everything behind. I moved to Mexico, started from scratch. And the first half year in Mexico, really, it was just like, yes, I'm going to do it. Yes, sounds fun. Yes, I'm just going to do it. And again, I'm so happy that I got to experience that, because you just learn that you can't take life so seriously. And the best things happen when you just say yes to what feels good and what feels like something that sparks your curiosity, and so much grows out of it. So yeah. And then eventually I started writing my books, and my second book was what changed a lot, because I got requests if I could offer coaching on journaling. And I was like, yeah, of course I have a course. I didn't have a course at all, but I was like, yeah, sure. I'm just going to do that. And that's when I founded my business, The Journal of a Healer.
I absolutely love everything about this. And I want to talk all about this. On your website, you speak about you're only like 22 years old at the time. And you are kind of forced to face what is success? Like, how do you define success in a burnout so incredibly early? Like, that's a really young age. I just want to start there. I know you had mentioned that you envision being just like a corporate leader and climbing the ladder, but what was going through your thought process that early to figure, wow, I'm literally experiencing a burnout right now?
Yeah, I think I wanted safety and freedom. And for me at the time, that meant, well, if I want to have a lot of money, then I have freedom. So I'm just going to climb the corporate ladder. That was the conclusion that I arrived at. But it didn't really work. So I'm actually, like, at the time when you go through burnout, you can't say, I'm grateful for this. I mean, you can, but it's not really like, it's very hard to say that in the moment. Now, looking back, I'm grateful that it happened so early and that it happened in a very strong way. So what happened was that I got a stone in my body that formed from the stress. And for a long time, doctors didn't know what it was. So I literally, with 22, I sat at the doctor's office and they told me, yeah, it could be a tumor. We're just going to have a check if that's a tumor. So you're so young. And it's like, I was working so hard for something that brings me to this point of maybe you're going to die. Great. Like, I don't want this. I don't want to chase something that doesn't even make me happy. I don't want to work so much in a totally unaligned way just for money or for quote unquote freedom, because it wasn't freedom. So I was so angry and I was so shattered that I really just didn't want to hear anything about success for a long time. I just wanted to follow my joy. I just wanted to be okay.
I love this. And I love how you highlight the word alignment. And my question for you, I think this is incredible. I mean, so admirable. I don't know how, I don't know if I could like think about this at that age, coming out of college, and you pack up your suitcase. You said
It
suitcases.
was two. Yeah. Yeah.
There you are jetting off to Mexico. I just really do like I want to hold on to this. When and how did you find that alignment as you were literally taking off on this journey to Mexico? Like, walk us through that whole process, the emotions that you were experiencing.
Yes. I just want to say it was two suitcases, one for books. And I convinced my dad to pay for that extra suitcase because I was just saving up my money. I was like, Dad, I really want to take my books. Can you just pay my second suitcase? He was, yeah, here you go. But so for me at the time, it was a very easy decision. I think because my family has been living between Latin America and Germany since I can remember, like that was normal for me. The jump didn't feel so big. It felt like going to a different home. Even if Mexico is different from Argentina, it's still Latin America. I speak the language. I feel at home in that culture. So it didn't seem so big at the time. And I think also, again, like I'm thankful that I was so young because you just don't overthink. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to do it. I figure it out. And and it felt like freedom. It felt like that one thing that I wanted to do and that I needed to do. And I remember sitting on the plane, one-way ticket, and just feeling so free and like so much weight was falling off my shoulders and like I could just be myself again.
I love that because I really do. I go back to my 22-year-old self and I could not even fathom that. Like I was born and raised in Florida. And so I just think like when I was reading your background, I'm like, this is an adventure. It's like as I get older, like I love pursuing, things that really you feel called to do or you're following your heart. And that's really what you have been able to do and to build upon. And I think it's so encouraging and it's so inspiring, Ariane. And so I want to like learn more about, like I said, you were just so successful, 12-time author, uh, 3-time TEDx talks, and then ultimately the Journal of the Healer. I want to hear all about that. What is the mission behind that? How did that evolve?
Yes. So 2020 happened. We didn't know what would wait for us in 2020. And for me, that was, well, I lost my income. I lost the relationship that I was in. I was alone in Mexico. Going back to Germany at the time wasn't really an option. And I really wanted to stay as well. So I was like, okay, I guess I just have to figure that out now. And I started journaling because I knew that something had to change. And I think that was the first time that I learned about personal development and about patterns and how to break them and trauma and all these things. Like I had no idea about that. And I knew that was the only way to get money and freedom. Again, I think it sounds a little bit funny to say like, those are my goals. I want money and freedom. And I knew, okay, I get there if I change something inside of me. So you could say, okay, the intention was maybe a bit weird, but I mean, it drew me to that world. So again, it's okay. And so I started healing and a healing like in terms of self-awareness and becoming aware that I can change something. I can get what I want. I can create my dreams. But I have to look at what's holding me back. So I started journaling, and this idea found me that every human being has this unique set of inner colors. And our homework in this life is to connect with that and to share the inner colors on the canvas called life. So I made a list, 3 to 10 words. Those are your inner colors, everything that describes your essence, everything that you are when you don't have to be anyone or anything. And I used this as a compass. It was literally a list on paper, and every decision that I took, I reflected that back with the list. So that's how I created alignment because I thought, okay, I'm designing my life decision by decision. If I bring my inner colors into at least most of my decisions, I get closer to success that feels like my own. And that's what started everything. And then I wrote a book about it, the Healing Journals. And that's when the request came. And I was like, I want to share that. It's fun. I want to share that with people and tell them that it's not about chasing something shiny that's actually so empty. It's about chasing or like creating something shiny that actually sparkles and your own version of success. And it's actually so easy. Make a list, reflect it back with your decisions, and create.
I love everything about this. And I really do. I want to hold on to this topic right now because as you were speaking, I think about people and even like, let me start with society, how society tells you, okay, you graduated with this major, so you have to go do either X or, X, Y, or Z type thing. And so in your experience, and as you were transitioning into, like I said, just finding that sense of alignment, for those out there that maybe kind of struggling to let go of what society deems as success and to move forward with exactly what you were saying, that sense of alignment, that sense of purpose and deep like inner knowing to go in a certain direction, like what type of advice could you give them?
I won't say it's easy because it's not. I think it's simple, but it's not easy. You have to unlearn so many things and you have to grow and outgrow. And that is hard. And you're going to lose friendships and you're going to feel uncomfortable in places that felt like yours before. But what waits on the other side is just so beautiful and amazing. And you're going to feel joy and gratitude to a level that you just can't put into words. So you're not wrong. I think that would be the one thing that I would tell everyone. Like, you're not wrong for wanting more alignment or for listening to yourself or for saying, you know what, that doesn't feel right to me. I'm just going to look for something else, even if everybody's doing this, but I don't like it. I want something else. You're not wrong for feeling that. And the more that you trust yourself, the simpler it's going to be.
It's so reassuring because I feel in society, like when it comes to even social media and living up to these expectations that society deems as successful, I think it can be very difficult to kind of remove yourself from that. And I always talk about, or at least in the past, I've spoken about it, but how I even experienced this transformation, like actually going out in nature. And I won't go like too far deep into this, but like it's really interesting when you were just like one with yourself, how you could hear your thoughts so clearly. And it really provides, for me at least, like in that lived experience, a sense of like guidance and direction. Where when I was hearing my thoughts, I thought like exactly what you were saying. It's not what society deems as successful, but like what would I actually want to pursue? And I think that's such helpful advice, Ariane. And I really do. I just want to amplify this message because I just think it's absolutely incredible what you have achieved in life thus far. 12-time author, 3 times TEDx talks. Have you always been this high achiever? Like, did it start at maybe in childhood, adolescence? Like, what really propelled you to be that high performer today, present day?
I think I'm just very creative and stubborn, to be honest. So whenever someone tells me you can do this, it just motivates me to try. And I had that feeling with the books as well, because I thought after the 5th one, it was like, like 5 books, it's okay, like just chill. But it's something I really want to do. I really love writing, and I just write 1,000 words every day. Not all of it ends up in books, but I just do it because I love it so much, and it takes me half an hour to an hour. So I just do it because I love it. And I think that's important, that we give ourselves the permission to do something, even if we don't have the guarantee that it will pay for something or that it will end up in something. It's just, you do it because you love it so much. I loved how you mentioned nature. Walks in nature are so amazing, and it creates this beautiful ripple effect in your life. And no, you don't earn money with going to a forest and taking a walk, but maybe you do because you get an idea and you work with that idea and you transform that into something, or you suddenly know, okay, I wanted to write this email, so this is actually what I want to say, and then that leads to something. So I think it's very important to listen to that and to make space for that.
I'm so happy that you mentioned that again. And like, just to follow up with that, in your experience, as you had mentioned, I mean, writing 12 books, you love to write, you have that sense of creativity in your thoughts. How do you find that sense of creativity? Is it actually walking in nature or, walks on the beach? Like, what does that look like for you?
Definitely walks in nature and coffee. But it works better in a coffee shop. It's very hard to explain that, especially because, again, like everything that I heard was, if you spend so much money on overpriced lattes, you're never going to buy a house. So I was like, well, but I really like lattes and I really like writing.
So curious. I know just in the past when I've taken these walks, truthfully, that's where I feel like my creativity comes alive. And I don't know how to explain it. I think it's maybe because you're away from the noise and the distractions and you could actually focus on whatever task it is that you're trying to figure out in that moment. And so, Ariane, so curious about how you particularly navigated and just became, I think, positively influenced with going in the direction of like startups and that entrepreneurial nature. Like, what influenced you to go in that direction?
It started very early, and I remember that I took what was it, organizational behavior course back at uni, and I just thought it was so boring, and I wanted to do something that was a bit more, creative. So I had a friend who just started his startup, and I was like, "Can you give me a job? Can I participate?" And he was like, "I know you. I know that you're writing a lot, so why don't you just join the PR department?" And I didn't really know what a PR department was, to be honest. I was like, yeah, sure, give me that role. And I loved it. I loved it that you could help people create their project. That was what their startup was about. And instead of these huge hierarchies and you need half a year for one tiny decision, it just annoyed me so much. And the startup world was so you can have an idea and make something with it. And you have so many people on board who always look for improving something, for making something better, and who have that sense of let's make an impact. And I love that about the startup world. And I love that about entrepreneurship. And I think to a certain extent, everybody of us is an entrepreneur. Maybe not everybody wants to start something on their own. But if we let that creativity live, that is entrepreneurship. You see something that you want to improve. You have an answer for someone, and you give that to someone. That is entrepreneurship. And that's what I love about it.
I love everything that you just said. I really do. I think, as you mentioned, like everyone really does have that sense of like entrepreneurship or that entrepreneurship vibe like within them. It's just a matter of exploring, like you said, and I really do. I think it's about finding that sense of like even looking within and what are you like, how could you amplify your strengths? What do you feel it is like your purpose to help in this world? And I think the exploration into the unknown. I think that's what's always like drove me in that direction was the sense of uncertainty. Like, what is coming next? Is there anything coming next?
True.
It really does. Like, as I'm thinking about your journey, I'm fascinated that you just picked up and you went to Mexico. I think that is the coolest thing. As you're actually going through this burnout, like what did you actually envision your career path to go before you maybe jetted off to Mexico and you went into more of that creativity and really just following your passion? Like what was it? What did that vision look like even before that happened?
That would definitely have been a woman in a leadership position in a big corporation. And I associated that with power, but in a beautiful way, not in a manipulative way, but in a way of you're in charge of a team, you get to help others. I really love that idea of power as a positive influence and traveling, of course. And I found that out later, but I thrive on being busy in a good way. It just has to be aligned because if it's not aligned, then that's definitely going to burn me out. But if it's aligned, I thrive on having a lot of things to do. I love that. So I guess it wasn't entirely wrong. It was just not really me. And that's why the burnout happened. And that's why sometimes, things happen in life and you wish they didn't happen, but then later you see it wasn't rejection. It was just redirection.
Yes. Yes. Magic words. I'm serious, Ariane. There's been so many times in life, like when you're 100% right. When you look back and either like something happened, you're like, why did that happen? Or why didn't that job open up? You know what I mean? But it makes complete sense later on. And I think it was Steve Jobs. He said it. I don't want to say the exact quote, but essentially you could only really understand your life as you look back and you connect the dots. And I just really do. I think that's such a powerful phrase that you just said is, just that sense that it's redirection. Rejection is not the sense of end all be all, but it's maybe redirecting you in a even more beautiful path than you had ever envisioned. So I love that you said that. Oh my gosh, I got chills because I'm like, yeah. But this is where it gets really exciting. So here you are. I wanted to name three particular lived experiences that I thought were absolutely fascinating. So you traveled to coffee farms in Chiapas and you founded your own coffee initiative. I want to start right there. So where did that sense of like passion for coffee or just exploring another realm, like where did that come from? And what did you maybe learn about yourself as you founded this new coffee initiative?
I'm so glad that you're asking. This is one of my favorite stories. So it all started because I came to Mexico. I had literally sent a LinkedIn message to every German person that I could find in the city. One wrote back. I was like, let's go for coffee. I was like, yeah, thanks. And she said, why don't you do a master's? I didn't really want to do a master's, but she was like, why don't you do a master's? I know someone who does something with coffee. And then something was ringing and I was like, coffee. I like coffee. That sounds amazing. I've always loved coffee for the creativity and the moment it is. And I didn't know a lot about coffee, but it just seemed like so fascinating to me I didn't even know how coffee grows, but there are people growing coffee and then you get to drink a cup of coffee. It just felt like the most amazing story to me. So I sent an email to that professor. I didn't know the professor at all, but I was just like, I love coffee so much, etc., etc., etc. And he was like, well, you know what? I'm actually going to Chiapas. Why don't you come with me? And I'm so glad that I said yes. Of course, my mom would have freaked out. Like, why do you go with this man that you don't even know? Like, it was actually two professors to a place where you have earthquakes, you don't have internet connection everywhere. Like, what are you doing? And we had forest fires at that time. But it was that sense of adventure. And this was one of the most beautiful 10 days I've lived. And I had this strange feeling, maybe you know that you were put into that place. And I remember talking to coffee farmers and a woman told me, I'm putting, that was a lot of responsibility, but she was like, I'm putting our future into your hands. And that moment felt like I had never experienced that before. It felt so right to be at the right place at the right time. And I knew that I had homework to do. So I went back to the center of Mexico. That's where I live. I texted owners of coffee shops, baristas, people who roast coffee. And I said, we have to do something about Mexican coffee because it's one of the best coffees in the world. And we just have to value it because what you find a lot of times is just the instant coffee. And it's like, no, you have the best coffee in the world. Just please. So we founded this initiative. We had a really big event in the city center. It was just this one yes, but it led to so many different events and moments and people connecting with the coffee message. And then I went to Germany and again, I had just pitched the idea. So I gave talks. I was on television, radio, newspaper, just spreading the message that we have to value coffee because there are people who love growing coffee. I asked coffee farmers, like, what does coffee mean to you? Of course, they said work, but in the sense of like, because it's their income, but they said family, love, friendship, nature. And then I asked people in Germany, and for them, it meant productivity, work, waking up. I was like, okay, look, it's okay, but let's just realize that there are people who have done that for generations, and it's something so sacred for them. So we should honor that, and we can honor that every day, and we can make a difference just by choosing a cup of coffee and just remembering that somebody made that coffee. Already that makes a huge difference.
100%. And thank you so much for sharing that journey because like you said, it all began with like a simple email, just like, telling your passion and what that could lead to. And I think that is a powerful message that, if you feel like just called to do something, like never be afraid to reach out and, somebody who has that level of expertise that could at least help guide you or at least have a conversation with you. And, the when I'm saying conversation, I'm also thinking to a sense of connection with coffee and how important today that human connection is. And how, as you were speaking, I'm like, this is so powerful how coffee, really does. It brings people together. And even like you said, even if it's in Germany and that sense of productivity, still it's pulling people together, having, cup of coffee and you're being productive in that sense. But I remember something that was so interesting to me is that, obviously here in America, it's just go, go, go for generally. But in Italy, I went a long time ago. I don't even know, like, I think it was like 2 decades ago, actually. But I'll never forget going over there. And I was just so enamored by the fact that it's 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and the coffee shops are just filled. And I was thinking to myself, like, how amazing this is. Because for the most part, I mean, even here in, US, like even in a Starbucks, like sometimes I'll run by 1 in the morning and like people come, they get their coffee and they leave. And so I want to open the conversation up just to your thoughts in today's world. What is your thoughts on connection and coffee?
I just remembered a moment it was a beautiful coffee shop in Midtown Manhattan. So obviously everybody's so busy. And it felt like being in The Devil Wears Prada. It was the first time that I went to New York. I was like, I'm going to go to a coffee shop. And I usually, when I walk into a coffee shop, I leave the door open for like the person who's behind me. And I expected somehow that the person in front of me would do the same, but they don't do that because they're just so busy. So they just walk in and the door just slammed into my face. And I was like, okay, hi. Then I also didn't understand where to queue. I was just on the wrong side of the line until somebody came up and said, like, you have to go there. Like I felt like such a tourist, but everybody was so busy and I was actually fascinated by that. It was so efficient. And I was the only person who was sitting there longer than 15 minutes with my journal and just journaling and enjoying the coffee. So obviously those may be the two extremes of like Mexican coffee. The coffee shops open at maybe 10 if you're lucky, and then Midtown Manhattan. But even if you have just a minute, enjoy that minute and appreciate the coffee. And just, I have coffee every day in a coffee shop, but I never forget how grateful I am for that and what a privilege it is to just be able to buy that coffee. And that already makes a difference. We don't need to sit an hour in a coffee shop and journal. If you have the time, please do. It's amazing. But if you don't, then just take a few seconds to appreciate that cup of coffee. And it's those small moments of appreciation and gratitude that change how you feel and how you live your day and how you speak to other people and how you go about your work. And that already makes a difference.
Exactly what you said there, because it really is. I think in this fast paced world that we live in, to be able to slow down and, like you said, even if it's a simple, cup of coffee in the morning, whatever, 10, 15 minutes, but to be able, like you said, to appreciate. I'm so happy that you mentioned this, Ariane, but the appreciation for literally bringing coffee into your house, or I think of food being prepared on a plate, but the appreciation for that, because we get in this idea of how it's just so easy to go to the grocery store, pick up food,
Yeah.
come home and
Yeah.
make it. It's on the plate. But like to think about the process of it, I just love how you mentioned a deep appreciation for literally just having a cup of coffee at home. I love that. And
Yeah, it's so important. It's so beautiful what you said. Yeah, it's a human being who works there. And a simple hi, how are you, that is genuine already makes such an enormous difference.
it really does. And I think it's like you said, if it's a smile, it doesn't have to be much, but it's just making that sense of connection with another human being and appreciating them for who they are and what they're doing in that moment for you. And so as we spoke about this coffee initiative, you have such a free spirit about you that's just, it's so contagious, Ariane. I love this. Here you are following your passion for music, performing at festivals, and you accept an offer to have your own radio show in cooperation with the SDG campaign of the United Nations. That is huge. How does this all evolve? Share with us these experiences and your journey.
Thank you for mentioning that. That was another adventure, yes. So at the time, I was very much involved in sustainability. And well, the coffee project also had a lot to do with appreciating coffee, but also thinking of the people who may be struggling with climate change because it affects coffee, etc. So I was very much in that sustainability bubble, and I got to know people and just talk to them. And then I had this idea, why don't we have this show that's called Sábados Sostenibles, which was Sustainable Saturdays. And I just pitched it with so much conviction, and I think they just had to say yes. So if you're listening to this, remember that your experience matters, that there are people out there who are inspired by your story, and don't be afraid to just pitch Are you going to get a lot of no's? Yes. Is it going to hurt? Yes. But you just have to keep going. You have to keep creating. You have to believe in your dreams. You have to believe in a project. You have to pitch it, and you have to know that this is also not just about you, but about the message that you bring across, and that makes a difference. And yeah.
That is so incredibly powerful. And I love how you mention just going for your dreams and understanding the realistic side of it too. Like you said, that there will be no's along the way. But when you just have that, it's almost like a severe passion that you feel deeply compelled to go in a certain direction. And like you said, I mean, to pitch an idea. I always think about it, Ariane, is that, at the end of my life, I'm sitting in this rocking chair. And as I reflect back, to know that I have nothing to regret. Like I did everything, even if it was great, that's, it's success. If it's not, but at least I tried. And so I love that you mentioned that and that you give encouragement to our listeners, because it's hard to take that first step or to feel that sense of confidence. Like, how do you muster up that sense of confidence to do everything that you have done?
It's interesting to me that you say that I'm so confident, because inside I'm just doubting myself all the time. Seriously. I struggle a lot with self-doubts, and that's what journaling also helped me with. Are we ever really 100% confident? I don't know, but I think we get to choose how we deal with the self-doubts. And how I imagine it is I let them sit on the couch and give them a cup of coffee if they want one. And then tell them, you know what, just let me do my work. I'm busy. And to remember that power, you are not your self-doubts. You are not the fear that's inside you. You are not the thoughts that sometimes come and tell you, who do you think you are? You, as you said, I have that same vision actually, that when I'm old and I look back, life is so fragile. And do we really want to ask ourselves what would have happened if, or do we want to tell stories also of failure and also of things that didn't work out at all and embarrassing moments? But I think we will be really happy if we have those stories, and to remember the power that we have right now to create those stories.
Beautifully said. And I really do. I think, as you mentioned, just like embarrassing moments, because I've had so many, Ariel. I'm on my fingers, you know what I'm saying? But it really, and that's another thing I want to mention, is you were saying embarrassing, everything's temporary. Even the success is temporary. Even when there is an embarrassing moment, time, it passes, right? And so I love that you live with this sense of courage, but then also authenticity. Like you said, that maybe you do have self-doubt, and that's human. Like, to be a human, yes, there is going to be concern of what did they think? And, how is this actually going to pan out? But I think that's what's so inspiring about your story, is how you still, even if you have that doubt, you still move forward and you still have that passion. Just like you said, when you pitched that initiative, the coffee initiative, and then, later on, performing in festivals. I think that's absolutely incredible. And it can inspire listeners right now to take that next step, whatever their dreams and goals may be. And so as we move forward, I am so curious about the transformation. My goodness, you wrote 12 books. And if you could just wrap up, all of your work, if somebody were to read your books or to have a conversation with you, what is that one main message that you really want them to take away from your work that you have done?
Keep creating. That is the one message that summarizes everything. And creating your dreams is never going to be easy, because you are literally going against everything that you learned, that most people are doing. The structure sometimes isn't even set up for it. When you live between different countries, then just managing your bank account is going to be more difficult. It's not going to be easy. But there's always a solution, and there's always a next step, and there is always something good, and there's always something purposeful, even in the most painful moments. You have to keep creating. And don't be afraid. Don't be scared of what other people could think. Don't be scared of, also today with social media, I think we're so scared of outgrowing and of saying, well, you know what, I used to be interested in that, but like the coffee, I don't post about coffee anymore. And it's okay. I've outgrown that and it had its time and place. And now it's a different chapter. It's okay. We're human beings. You don't have to lock yourself into something. You're allowed to grow and to expand. But I think your inner color is always going to be the same and your core message is always going to be the same. And for me, that's keep creating.
I love everything that you said. And I love how you speak about even chapters throughout your life, how maybe certain chapters are even helping with your personal growth. And, you mentioned it too, but how people like, as you go through these lived experiences, whether it is in like a career, I even think about like when I've been lost many times in my career. I have to laugh, but it was this sense of, as I reflect, there were maybe people along the way that you were meant to meet simply by going down, a certain path. And so if everything that you're saying, I mean, it speaks to me. I know it's going to speak to our listeners. And so I want to hear this is kind of just a big message, if you will, Ariane. But if you had one message, you had this microphone that was going to blast out, everybody would hear your message. What is that message going to say?
The question, it's so difficult. All right. Okay. That would be, what feels most true to you today? And I'm adding today because of that we can outgrow. We can sometimes what we call change your mind. I think it's just you get to a different level of self-awareness and that's why you adjust your opinion. And it's not you're changing your mind all the time. It's just you are so self-aware that you're open and curious to what else is possible and what feels true to me today. And I think if we live our days with that level of self-awareness, that's going to make a huge difference, not just for you, but for everyone that you interact with, for everything that you work on, and for everyone, for us as a society, as the world. Like self-awareness, that's where it starts.
So true. That's so true. And as you mentioned this message, I really do like I'm holding on to our conversation just about career transitioning into new chapters. But for someone who is kind of battling, if you will, the external expectations, even if it's like family and friends, to where they actually do want to head into a completely different direction. What is your advice, even from your own lived experience?
Okay, so I'll be completely honest here, especially now that you mentioned family. I think it's important to talk about this. So I'm getting along very well with my parents now, but every now and then we also had our chapters where it was very difficult to. I mean, they always said that they are proud of me, and I know that, but still, I'm the only one in my family that I'm the first self-employed person. I'm the first one who builds her own business. So there were times when they just totally did not understand what I was doing, but they were supportive in their own way. With my siblings, that's a different story. And only recently I've decided that it's better. And like it broke my heart. It still breaks my heart. But I was just like, you know what? I love you the way that you are. And I love myself so much and I love my dreams so much that for now, it's better if I'm not writing you. It's better if I don't know what you're up to. It's better if I even block you on my Instagram. And I don't have a problem with that anymore. And I'm not saying the door is closed forever. It's just for now, I have to bring that love to myself. And because it affects me so much when they say something that, they like you build on buddies and you're like, please, can we not just like play together? And can we not just like have a good time? And then if that's not the case, you can't be sad about something all the time. You have a job to do. You have a purpose. You have a homework to get done that's larger than you. So it's okay to set those boundaries and you have to take care of yourself.
I love that you said the word boundaries, like to have that sense of boundaries in your life and how important that is. Like, as you mentioned, like if you look at your career and how you're able to blossom, to really thrive in your career, you really do have to have those supportive people or even make way for supportive people to come into your life because I experienced a transformation and exactly what you were talking about, Ariane, was that sense of creating boundaries, but then also being able to have just like so much more energy. And it makes it
Yeah.
so could
Yeah.
you speak on energy too?
Yes. One of my favorite topics. So it's actually very simple. I believe in joy a lot. And I believe in the flow of ideas a lot. So I notice that when I don't feel the joy, I feel a lot of frustration. I feel a lot more self-doubts. I feel anger to an extent. I mean, anger can be healthy, but if it's just that anger that eats you up, you're in a state that doesn't allow you to receive ideas and to work with ideas. And that's when I notice, okay, I have to be careful and I have to set boundaries and I have to not go to those places anymore, or I have to not talk to those people anymore. And it's not that they're bad. It's just that you're on a different energy level and you have to be careful because it happens so quickly that somebody just almost like a vampire just comes and drains you. And you can't allow that to happen. And I think that's something that we notice when we're as entrepreneurs, our energy is everything and our ideas are everything. You don't just get paid. You actually have to be present and energetically present. So the other side is when you have a lot of ideas, when you feel like, oh, I love this so much. I forget about time. I could work on this all day. I'm just enjoying what I'm doing so much. I know from the outside, it looks a bit like obsessed, but it's like, you're just so happy working on what you're working on. That's what you want to have in your life. It's always not going to be that way because you're growing naturally. And then there's going to be a readjusting and you're stepping into a new identity and so on. But just generally, like if you feel very drained and if you feel very unhappy and if you're doubting yourself more than it, to a healthy extent, just pay attention. Also, journaling is so helpful. Make a list. Who did you talk to today? How did you feel after talking to that person? Where did you go to today? How did you feel after going to that place? It's very simple, but it's so powerful. And again, it's a self-awareness and that changes everything.
Love that you mentioned that at the end. It's a sense of self-awareness, of just being cognizant of your environment and the energy. I love how you mentioned that, the reflection. I think that's really interesting. That's something like I would love to start doing as far as even within journaling, but the people that you come across, how did you feel deep within? Because you're right. Like I feel like as entrepreneurs, like there's really something to be said about energy and the people that you attract into your life and how powerful that could be. Like I don't know like theoretical physics and all this stuff.
Nor do I.
I'm telling you, it's so like when you were speaking, I'm like nodding my head and I'm like, yes, like I've experienced that. But Ariane, this has been a fabulous episode. I am so excited for our listeners to just be able to take in all of the knowledge that you have shared with us, the wisdom. But I would love to end with a positive message or a positive quote and what it means to you.
I want to say 1,000 things.
Please,
Okay. I'm gonna go way back to the start. So we have like a full circle moment, which is the emojis in the email. If you if you feel like sending emojis in the email, just do it. No, well, what I want to say is like, don't apologize for your joy. Don't apologize for the positive energy that you bring to places. Don't feel like you're too much. Some people will not understand it. I was asked all the time, like, are you in love? Because you're so happy. And I'm like, yeah, I'm in love with life. So don't apologize for your joy. Joy is so powerful. Protect it and keep creating with it.
So beautifully said. So Ariane, I really do. I genuinely want to thank you for coming on the podcast. And I just do I want to take it back from the beginning, but I want to let our listeners know like what a joy it was from the very beginning to begin communicating with you on message. Like you feel the energy on your messages, on your emails. And that's why I was so excited to record this podcast episode because you just radiate energy. And I wish you all the very best moving forward.
Thank you so much. And same back to you. I just felt like sparkly confetti in my inbox. So thank you for that. And thank you for the beautiful conversation we had. And the best of success to you too. And just a huge thank you.
Thank you, Ariane.